and welcome to On Air Advocate episode 184. We're at the On Air Advocate. We look to provide education, support, and empowerment for all of those with different abilities, mental and medical illnesses, and their caregivers. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I'm the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am super excited if you are here this afternoon joining us, or whether you are catching this on the replay. Now, as always, if you think any of the content that we are talking about today could be valuable for your network or your circle, please hit the share button and share the love with others. Well, if you guys have been following us on social media, you know that we have just kicked off our Autism Acceptance and Awareness Month. And I am so excited to have one of our, I would say, the On Air Advocate's good friends back here today, Vicki Fitch. She is an author, a speaker, a business consultant, and an expert in the direct sales industry. But the biggest thing is she's a mom. She's a mom, she has kids, and she has a son that is on the spectrum. And so she is here today to share with us so much. So Vicki, like we were chatting about before the show, you've shared a lot from those other perspectives, you know, and we've done a lot of bullying stuff, mental health over time, but we've really never dove into more your personal family life. And so I would love for you to share with everyone, because I mean, you not only were an entrepreneur during this whole time, but you know, having a family and having a child on the spectrum, and how that, you know, how that was, how you achieved your goals, you know, during that time. But in what we were also talking about beforehand is COVID-19 and how we're coping now. So that's me throwing a ton at you right now.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. And it's all such relevant information. And by the way, thank you for having me again. I absolutely enjoy being here. And I think what you're doing is so valuable to the community, is making sure that we understand how to advocate for other people, advocate for ourselves, and recognize and have awareness for things that a lot of people don't recognize. So super kudos to you for that. And thanks so much for having me on again, Tammy. And, you know, first of all, yes, I am an entrepreneur. I've been in business. I always say I'm 22, but you know, let's face it, I have a 23-year-old son, so perhaps I'm a little older than 22. But you know, being an entrepreneur for many, many years and growing and selling, I started 4 businesses from scratch, built them and sold them, all while, you know, having a child on the spectrum. And it's, you know, it's challenging. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, right? It is challenging. It's so worth it though, because I know you get it. But when we get to dive into the mind of someone on the spectrum, they're so smart and they're so, you know, creative. They articulate things in a different way. And sometimes I find it's actually an easier way. And yet, because we're so accustomed to adjusting to the way other people communicate, that, you know, that we miss it. And so, yeah, so life has been definitely interesting. When my son was little, he was diagnosed when he was 6, but I knew when he was younger that he was different, right? I knew that because he could never look me in the eyes. And I always, you know, I literally practiced, and I put my hands up, and he would go like that, like, you know, he wanted to do it, but it just wasn't natural, and he didn't like it. And so I knew that was different, right? And so I tried to figure out because again, you know, he's 17 now, and autism was not, you know, Asperger's. He's diagnosed with Asperger's, and it wasn't really that prevalent. People didn't know
that age was. I mean, my son has been tested for all this, and I don't know, because my son's turning 23, but that was a thing in that time frame. You know, probably not discovered more. So when you went in and he was that, you know, at that very beginning stage, did they know right away that it was that, or did they say
they ignored me? They ignored me. He's just a boy. You just don't understand. He's a boy. And I was like, well, I already have a boy. I had a brother too. And this is my second child. And I was like, I don't think so. I think no. And he was very hyper. He definitely has ADHD. And they were like, oh, he's just a boy. You're just an overprotective mom. And I was like, what does overprotective have to do with him not looking at me in the eye and what, you know, and being a little bit different? And they just ignored me. And I, you know, it's funny how as strong and as confident as I am, you don't know what you don't know. And so when people say, you know, you're wrong, and inside I'd be like, I don't think you're right, but I also don't want to be that person that thinks that I know everything, you know? And so, but I continue to try and do some research and studies to try and figure out, because for me, it's not about, labeling, right? Some people say, oh, it's better to label. It's not about labeling. It's about knowing. And when you know something's different, you can identify it, you can address it, and you can learn how to help. When we don't know what's wrong or what's different, right? What's challenging our child, and they just feel overwhelmed or stressed out, or they're not understanding, and they're getting angry or whatever's happening, then we can't advocate for them if we don't understand. And so I kind of went on a search of trying to research things and figure things out. So I don't know what part you want me to go to, because I feel like I'm just blabbing on, Tammy, but
Power. And I tell all parents that, advocacy doesn't ever stop. You know what I'm saying?
right.
You will always be knocking on the door. You will always be asking the question. But that knowledge gives you the power to move forward. So was
Mhm.
there a pivotal point where you met the right doctor or the right therapist that you were like, the light bulb went on, you know what I'm saying? And they heard what you were saying.
Kind of.
Got some of that, the resources, obviously, that you needed, that you were done kind of searching, you had somewhat of an answer.
Kind of. And I would say my story didn't get to where it needed to be in a pretty way. It got ugly, actually. It got sad. And not, when I say ugly, I mean, for parents, whenever we see our children really hurting and we can't fix it, that makes us feel terrible inside, right? And so it gets challenging. When he was in kindergarten is when we ended up getting started the process of an official diagnosis. I knew that, I mean, he was always the happiest kid, but he ran into things a lot, and he did, kind of things, but he'd always like bounce up. I okay, like I'm good, everybody, he just had some of these little cute quirky things. And but he went to he was at school. Sorry, let me just back up for a second. And we had those parent teacher things, but the teacher this time was sitting back and the kids were leading the, kind of little parent teacher thing that you got at kindergarten. And he would sit at the table, and then he would try and show us something, and he was so stressed out, he would keep looking at the teacher, and she was like, we do this every day, Elijah. Like you dummy, you should know what you're doing, and you should know what you're saying. And all of a sudden, and he's getting all anxious and stressed out. And I was thinking, and I was coaching him along, going, oh, it's okay, buddy. Let's, just kind of go through this. Anyway, when we left, he started smacking his head on the ground, saying he's stupid, and creating this whole anxiety thing that came out. And it honestly, like, I could cry when I think of it, because my heart was tortured, because this child was obviously trying so hard and he was so excited. And here's this person that's just dashing him against the rocks for not, being delivering the information, because he didn't understand how he was supposed to deliver it, and he didn't know how to communicate. I don't understand. I'm playing with the blocks that are on the table. I don't know what you wanted me to say, and it was just heartbreaking. And that's when we started this whole process of getting testing, and finally going to a doctor, a neurologist that did tests and said, he has an anxiety disorder and he has Asperger's. And so, you know, like I said, and she gave me some books and things, and said, hey, you want to start reading this. And of course, they don't call it Asperger's anymore. They call it, communicative associative disorder or whatever. I don't know why. People on the spectrum, Asperger's moms, we still call our kids Aspies. And, I say we, be proud of that. Like, I always told my son, because he always say, I'm so weird, I'm a weirdo. And I go, no way, dude, you're quirky, and quirky is cool, and that's why I ended up writing a book later, that had that in the title and stuff, which we can talk about in a minute. But that's how we got where we were, is that it got to a point where I wasn't going to listen to somebody tell me I was wrong anymore, because that wasn't normal, and he was hurting so badly because he didn't know how to communicate effectively and couldn't share. And I went on a mission to start advocating, not only like to help him navigate the world, and to help the world understand who he is too, and not just make it his responsibility, but make it our responsibility as a community. I know, sorry.
Now the tissues are going to start.
It's real life right here on our advocate.
No, yesterday we were reading poems by one of the interviewees, their son, that he writes, he has his own poetry that he does.
Oh,
And I was like, Ah! Um, so within doing this, I mean, and you got the answers. You didn't stop at, at one stop shop, like listening to what one person said or the other person said. And him obviously excelling through school, high school. And now is he in his last year of high
He
school?
is. He's a senior. And of course, we're in the COVID-19 senior year, which is very interesting.
When I'm talking to, doing this series and talking to moms and dads and whatnot, it seems like, it's hard enough for all of these parents in America that are like, okay, you're teachers. You're,
Yeah.
you're teachers now. And even harder for those that at school, their young adults, their kids receive therapy, receive extra help. And so, not to skip over, but how is that going so far, navigating that with him having to still, finish school and the homework and the logging in, the computer stuff? Do you have either advice, strategies that you're already like on week 3, you're like, I've figured this out? Or
I'd like to say
sharing-
yes, but we do. I mean, we do have a strategy and we do have a schedule because even though he rebels against the schedule, because it's vacation time for any kids at home. At this point, they're thinking that, well, it's time for video games all day, and and it's like,
Right.
no, it's not. This is important. And then I don't know. Well, I probably shouldn't say it because I don't know which people are, but one of the counties across the world, I won't say where it was, told the kids that their grades, it doesn't matter, that they cannot lose their grade during this time, like no matter what. So if they got A's, the kids are like, well, why do I have to do anything? That wasn't my kids' district, but it was like, wow, that's not a good thing to tell kids, because we need them to continue working, especially during this time. They need something else to think about, and
Right.
maybe it's not dive in and do hardcore, because it is stressful, not being able to go out. And I don't know about you guys, but we have to wear masks anytime we leave the house at all, like even going for walks, which we weren't having to do before. So, it's weird. And he's not really particularly fond of things on his face, and so it's like, and going a little stir crazy. It's like, I'm getting out of here. I don't want to be here, and I don't want to do that. And so, we have a plan, and I won't say it works perfectly, but I do find as the days go by, the more consistent, no matter, because at first, complete rebellion, arguing, fussing, fighting. No, I hate you. I don't want to do this. I want to go back to school. You're not a good teacher, and then it's like, it lessens because they're trying to deal with their anxiety too. When things are different, we all act weird. I mean, let's face it, we just do. So, and when you don't understand, like in the beginning, he was like, you guys are trying to trap me and keep me here. I was like, no, we're really not. And so, but they don't understand. There's not these big virus balls dropping from the ground where you can see it. So it's the invisible enemy, and it's hard. It's hard to process. They don't process information the same.
Understanding the ramifications to it. For my son, because he does have some pretty significant chronic, severe medical issues, he hasn't gone out of the house, and if I've had to take him somewhere, it's like, we can't even get out of the car with the first step of, okay, I didn't touch this, I didn't touch that, I didn't eat. So then trying to devise the time. Okay, so when are you going to run to the store? When are you going to do, something, especially when you're, single parents. So all the single parents out there, I hear you.
Kudos to the single parents, because I don't know how you do it.
And I've gotten more used to, drive up. It's like, okay, you have your phone. If there's an emergency, I'll be out in 5 minutes. I mean, just because of the caution, especially because he doesn't like that either on his nose and on his face. So you're going in to protect it, but then they're grabbing the mask at the same time. So the struggle is definitely, real, but you found for yourself that just the pattern has gotten a little bit easier. So you setting
there's one consistent parent, and there's one I call him consistently inconsistent. Like, I love my husband, but he always wants to fix everything. He wants to be, Disneyland dad. Like, oh, let's let him stay up late. Let's let him get up late. Let's let him do, and like, no, because it's not good for him. I know that. And, I know it's not good for him. And so I try and stay very tight with the schedule, but yeah, it is improving for sure. And like I said, so giving hope to the parents, for me, I tell him, you know what, this is what we got to do. He has a schedule, so he can look exactly what has to be done. And then we have a check system that we get to check the work that's online and what needed to be finished before, again, he gets it all done before lunch, and then we eat lunch, and then he can go play his video games or do, what he wants to do.
Right.
But yeah, so it's the consistency, I think, is honestly really the key, at least in my home. I don't know about anyone else's.
Yeah. So if anybody's listening, if you have ideas, things that have worked, I know Cindy.
Bring them on.
Jackie shared ideas. I had her on this morning, Jackie from Kansas City. How interesting is this? Her son loves movies. So she's doing a reward system. So she set up like a little movie stand in her house. And for everything that he does, he gets money that that she will get one of the pay movies through Amazon.
Oh, very cool.
At the movie theater, and he can like buy popcorn and candy. I'm like, well, that's cool.
Right? I would be totally doing that. Right.
Prior boards in every room for anxiety in our house. So it's like, what's going to happen for the day? What do you have done? Check it off. So bedroom, kitchen counter, wall, and then a big one.
Yeah.
So it just helps to de-escalate, some of that.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
So on this journey, getting to kind of the book writing part you talked about. So all the things you've done, raising him. Yeah. Awesome. Phenomenal mom. Yes, you are.
Oh, thank you.
And you really strive to drive awareness for bullying and acceptance and embracing who you are and loving who you are and teaching that, which is I love about you. When did you was there a point with him that you're like, I want to write this book because of the things that I've learned in, and I'm saying my time with him and the acceptance and people accepting him for who he was and just the battle within school. Did you put a lot of that? I know you've written several books, so it's not just one book, but did you put that into some of those books, some of, what I'm saying, those feelings and experiences that have happened over time?
I did. And I'm sorry that my nose is still dripping from the tears earlier. So forgive me for touching my face, which is very, very you're not allowed to do anymore. No touching of the face. But I did, I started out because, we having to deal with some of the things, and I call those the bullies in your head, right? Fear, doubt, and shame. I call the big three bullies. And I'm going to show you the cover of this book because it's my son's face, or the replication of his face. That is my little Elijah, and showing the bully that's hanging out in your headspace, that he's just kicking back there. And that's, and then even like, cause he has freckles, they're light. And so we have the little light freckles, and he's like, Mom, where's my freckles? Like where are my freckles, to make sure, that it's representative of him. And so, fear and doubt and shame are three of the big bullies that affect everyone. But when you're on the spectrum, you're constantly trying to figure out if you fit in. And then as soon as you fit in, you kind of want to stand out as like, kind of like a peacock, like, okay, just so I know that I'm okay. Am I okay? Am I okay? Like just constant, some kind of reminder that I'm okay, and that you still like me. And if I say dumb things, or I say things you don't like, am I still going to be accepted, or then do I have to withdraw? And this constant, anxious feeling all the time. So I started writing about the bullies that hurt you. And then when I wrote what I call a pseudo sequel to that book, even though they're not the same, the bullies, and the headspace heroes, because that's who protects you in this book. The headspace heroes, like confidence, courage, and and empathy, and kindness and compassion. All the headspace heroes are what we want to clean out what the bullies left behind and fill us with that. Again, it's Captain Confidence and Corporal Courage, and Hope is one of the characters I play. My clients call me the Hope Dealer. And so I even have a costume that I do in the kids and for smaller kids and stuff like that. And I do the You Are Enough Global Initiative. So when the pseudo sequel came out, I created a character, and his name's Jaspy the Aspie. He happens to be well, I can show you the picture of him. I don't have the cover of the book here, but this is Jaspy. And see, Jaspy has all these super cool colored spots. Yeah, he's a giraffe.
I love it.
So isn't he cool? And so he has all these spots, and I wrote a children's book too. I wrote 12 books in 12 months last year, but I actually wrote a 13th because I wrote a children's book called Quirky is Cool. And it was about how Jaspy came to be and how his parents tried to cover up the spots because they knew people would make fun of him. And then how he really finally got this thing where he just decided to, to be himself and stop trying to hide who he was and recognize his value. And it's called Own It, how to step up and stand out. And basically it's talking about that you will find your tribe and that quirky is cool and normal is so yesterday, right? And to stop trying to be like other people. So it is a business book, but it's called part 1 is all about Jaspy and what happened with his friends and how they all wanted him to conform. And he, and just like his dad used to, and he decided, no, I'm going to be me. And that's what I try to teach my son is stop trying to conform, be you. And if you make mistakes, we'll help you through them. If you say inappropriate things, we're going to keep guiding you, but you be you because you are enough just the way you are. Any changes you make should be because you want to grow and develop and become more, not because someone's misguided information says you're not good enough or you're not smart enough or you're not something enough. And that is where that all came from. So I know that was a lot of information, but I hope that it inspires someone in your audience.
Oh, are you going to make me cry just even saying it? I'm like, we're ready. Like shirts that say that we are enough. So you need to think about that.
I do. We have a line of stuff. We just all of a sudden COVID happened. I started my book tour and my speaking tour, and then everything got canceled. I had 3 more engagements in Chicago at 3 more Barnes and Noble, and I have characters too. I have Mr. You Are Enough. He's a character, and so yeah, I know we have so much. I do. Let me see.
What an idea! Like that kids could play with their names.
They are
it to tell the story.
Exactly, and I do that in the bookstores.
But how great would that be to teach acceptance within the?
This is Mr. You Are Enough. You are enough. and when Jaspy comes out, then he has his other friends, and you guys will have to read the book to find out. But then you have his other friends. These are you are enough.
I love it. But you know what? You are so positive and inspiring and giving, even if your son doesn't always want to receive it, he's there. And he hears you and he sees you showing up every day for him and advocating for him. Amen. And so he still absorbs it. You know what I'm saying? Even
somewhere, right back here, right?
He still does. And wasn't he doing something unique? Was that with his brother that they did? Did they do their hair?
He bleached his hair. His brother bleached his hair as part of his TikTok. I think they have like 600,000 views on that or something. Zach has almost 100,000 followers, and he has a couple that are right under 1 million. So he averages about 150,000 views per TikTok. So
that's a whole nother episode.
It is, girl. It is.
But I have seen, what I've seen, which is kind of cool, is that so many parents with children, young adults with different abilities over this COVID thing have started a TikTok. I mean, I don't want to get off onto social media that way, but they're trying to find things to do at home. And how fun then to dance around with the kids, do exercise, put it up, let them see themselves on a video. But I mean, I must have seen in the last probably week at least 100 people within my circle that have kids with different abilities start TikToks, and they're all out there, dancing and doing stuff. So, I mean, I do think it's a super positive.
Well, they should follow Zach because he started a line. I mean, I told him that you should start series because when there's a series, people continue to check things in. And so he's calling it Quarantine Games. And so he has a game every day that he posts. And some of it's just stuff you can use around the house, and making bowling and airplanes. His paper airplane ones are super popular where he'll custom and do a paper airplane, and then kids are duplicating it. But it's a lot of stuff that you can do right from home. With stuff there, some of it's stuff that's like inexpensive things you can buy, and I put a page up on my Amazon store for him, like so he can send people there. Yeah, this is what it is. But you guys should check it out. It's Zach.Fitch is his handle. And like I said, for parents, a lot of stuff is very spectrum friendly. Using empty water bottles as, when you're bowling, and coming up with tape. If you don't have a ball, use tape to wrap it up until you get a ball that's big enough. So, there's a lot of spectrum friendly, and paper airplanes are easy, and you can have races and all kinds of fun stuff.
Yes.
So,
well, make sure to drop that link below,
you got it.
So people can find that. But yeah, I mean, definitely another tool. And like I said, if anybody's listening, if you have found useful tools, whether your child is on the spectrum, not on the spectrum, you're just at home with your kids or your family, because there's a lot to be said for a lot of husbands and wives that are like, we need other things.
Right. There's a lot of, because there's a lot of, all of a sudden, people are around and in your office and in your hair that weren't, you used to have a routine, and now you got to kind of change your routine.
Of the things that they're doing. I know I keep putting on my Instagram all my different, like, this lunch surprise. It's like mystery lunch day 1, mystery lunch.
But is it mystery? You don't know what it is? You're pulling it out of the fridge.
I know. I just am like, I don't really know what I'd call it, because it really has no name. It's just like,
I love it.
Don't leave to go to the store very often. So,
I love it.
For that. But you know what, Vicki, I just thank you for taking the time. I know that the devil wanted to try to intercept us today, so we were an hour behind. But you know what I love about you, the same, inspiration and perseverance that you give, to your kids and your husband and your business, you gave to me today. You're like, no, we're not going to let the devil win.
That's right, girl. We are going live. No matter what, we'll do it.
With all that. So I so appreciate you. I so appreciate you sharing your story. And I know that you always are very accessible, drop below your links. So if there are other moms out there, because I'm sure that's a whole nother conversation off of the topic of Autism Awareness Month, moms that are out there, mompreneurs, entrepreneurs that have kiddos that are trying to, trying to make it happen, that it's very inspiring to see other business owners that make it happen. You know what I'm saying? And work within that. So I know you're very accepting to reach out.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And like I said, I adore you. I appreciate everything that you do for the community. And I'm always here, if you need something. And like I said, hopefully I have helped someone. I see a lot of people are in here, and I just appreciate my fans and followers coming as well and being supportive. And again, you are a gem. So if they're not following, if my peeps are here and you're not following Tammy Flynn and the On Air Advocate, definitely do. Again, great. I think you're amazing. And I honestly offer you big kudos, because I don't know how you do all you do, my friend. I really don't.
Oh, well, thank you so much. We're going to need tissue.
I know, right? But there's no tissue. You cannot find toilet paper either.
That's a whole nother segment too. Like, oh my goodness. I feel kind of like we're all in the twilight zone. So if anyone else feels that way, no, you're not alone, because I'm like, what's going on?
Absolutely.
But we're definitely all in this together, and your inspiration, truly helps us in that too. You're inspiring, and you're always on. So catch up with you as well. You have always something and find good content.
Typically every day at 6 p.m. I try and go live, and then of course we try and provide blog posts and newsletters as well. I call it edutaining, educate and inspire.
I love it.
I mean, educate and entertain and inspire. I got to add that. I guess I'm educate and entertain, but maybe it's entertain you. I don't know.
I always say right now, I have like quarantine brain. Like I want to say something, but it doesn't. It doesn't
come out right. So yeah, I'm hashtagging everything for now. Quarantine brain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the lack of sleep. It's the stress. All of it.
And are you finding yourself more tired than usual?
Yes, but you know what I can't do is I can't sleep. Like last night, people are like, "Are you still up? Are you still up?" Like it's like 2 a.m. and I get up at 4. I mean,
me too. But
I get up, I get stuff done, and I'm just like my brain. Not it was part of the On Air Advocate, but outside the On Air Advocate, I own other businesses. And so we were part of the mandated closures. And so, what I'm saying, just weighing on your brain and other people's lives and their families and, yourself, I think that, it's just prayers to everybody, what I'm saying? Because everybody is going through a journey, and all of our frontline workers, God bless them. for all that they are doing. I mean, honestly, put in their life.
Absolutely. And I know because you're in the salon thing, that event that I've been doing, the, do you neo, do you need extra opportunities? We did a whole thing on hairdressers and that kind of stuff yesterday. So if some of the moms on the spectrum are trying to figure out a way to do some things, they might want to check that out as well. I'll drop a link for them too. Just it gives them ideas on how they can, make some extra money. And let's face it, kids on the spectrum, finding games for kids on the spectrum, you could easily start a social media channel or doing something like that and build an audience up where you can turn it into an income.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, check that. I was like, oh, I got to go back to that. But I had all these shows yesterday. So.
I'll tag you. You definitely should see. You'll love those ideas. You'll love them.
All right. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for spending, the last long bit been with me a long time because we've been trying to go live for like 2 hours. I appreciate you, Vicki. I appreciate all that you do. And I can't wait to check out your kids' TikTok either. That's going to be great. So I'm going to check that out. But thank you all that have viewed in today. If you thought any of this stuff was useful, funny, entertaining, any of that, please share. Let the love go out. So with that, if anybody wants to know more information about the On Air Advocate, you can just head on over to onairadvocate.com. All of our social media platform and all of our resources are right there. So with that, thank you so much, Vicki, again.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
All right. Bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.